What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and sadly, the erasure of women is something I have to keep reporting on as modern media keeps pushing narratives that aren't healthy for society again. So, in this video, I'll talk about how woke weirdos are trying to erase women from spaces and retroactively replace their core values to push ideology, and how places like Marvel are so deep in the sauce they're drowning their future projects before they even learn to swim. Also, just want to quickly point out that I was recently on the Open Bar podcast. I was invited by the Critical Drinker and Mahler to speak on the news of the week. It was surreal, it was really cool, and I'm happy people were so welcoming of it. If you'd like to watch that stream, I'll leave a link in the description for you. And my one plug here for me is that I'm also now a G Fuel partner now, so if you want 20% off, you can use my code ENDYMION. Link will be in the comments and the description. Thank you. Anyway, let's begin. When it comes to modern media, the depiction of women has largely been something I've taken much issue with, as many modern creators tend to remove all the unique qualities of women on purpose in order to fit the entire demographic into a box. From journalists complaining about women being too sexy in media and studios openly desexualizing their female characters in order to avert the male gaze, and the artificial pushing of female-led characters, it's all just so tiring and tone-deaf. Even recent games like Mortal Kombat have desexualized their female characters so much, it's led to many people complaining that NetherRealm made their female characters ugly on purpose. And when it comes to female characters in leading roles, these companies can't help themselves but do it by reducing their male characters into lesser roles on purpose. For example, Marvel's Fantastic Four movie is coming in 2025, and according to sources, it won't be Reed Richards leading the family, but Sue Storm, because of course she is. This is modern day Marvel we're talking about here. This rumor comes courtesy of WDW Pro, an industry insider who has accurately leaked much about Disney from their Marvel and Star Wars properties and more. Pro claims this particular rumor comes from one of their highest and best sources who confirms the Fantastic Four reboot will be Sue Storm-centric. Reed Richards is also referred to as Mr. Fantastic in this film, but it's only said in a condescending and negative manner, and that a major plot of this film would be Sue's realization that she has been sacrificing so much of herself by being in a relationship with Reed. This blatant push to make Reed Richards into a toxic masculinity character that is more a ball and chain than an actual person is unfortunately on brand for media these days. This is yet another film being pushed as potential propaganda to create the narrative that women will be more happy if they are alone, childless, and take their own agency. I also take offense that so many magazines and ads you see on TV these days suspiciously always remove the male father figures, with the kids usually always just being raised by mothers. Funny how that works. Unsurprisingly, this emasculation of the MCU's Reed Richards is likely why so many actors from Adam Driver to Matt Smith have all passed on the role, as they would barely even be characters, but just physical punching bags for the girl boss star to attack so delusional brainwashed women in the audience can yell "Yas girl" as they sip their Diet Coke as they feel empowered. This is also apparently why the Spider-Man Home trilogy director John Watts left the project as well, since he was likely frustrated that this reboot would be Fantastic Four in name only. This prominent push to emasculate male characters at the expense of elevating female ones is nothing new in today's media. But what frustrates me about this is that making the core point of your Fantastic Four movie be that Sue realizes she doesn't need her family to be successful is the opposite of what the Fantastic Four is to begin with. Their entire existence is meant to be labeled as Marvel's first family. Hell, they even have kids for crying out loud, like Franklin Richards, who ends up being so powerful later on that he can reanimate the corpse of Galactus. But I can already tell you that if and when Franklin and his sister Valeria get introduced, Marvel will absolutely take Franklin's godlike powers and just give them to his sister, because we can't have men being gods or powerful at all in today's modern media at any cost. This is just another example of woke corporations self-sabotaging easy slam dunks in the name of identity politics. And it's blatant propaganda to ensure young girls who watch this movie see Sue Storm as an idol and will in turn reject the family unit. And like I've said in previous videos, that by 2030 the prediction of 45% of women being single and childless is going to come true if things like this keep getting pushed. And honestly, as someone who's a fan of the Fantastic Four, demoting Reed Richards is stupid as hell too. And they'll ruin the dynamic between him and Doom, since Sue doesn't have as close of a connection to Victor Von Doom like Reed does. Just this whole situation, it's just so stupid and unnecessary. But it's another example of modern corpos tearing down male characters to make the women of the world feel empowered, and I'm so tired of it. Then you have DC Comics trying to retroactively switch Diana Prince's sexuality into a full-blown lesbian too. But this is not something that is just happening either, since even back in 2016, sites like DigitalSpy.com were already pushing the idea of queerifying Wonder Woman already. The idea here is Wonder Woman is from Themyscira, which is populated solely by women, so naturally she would then have to be gay. But this belief is actually a self-own that the woke DC leadership doesn't realize. If Wonder Woman has to be gay because she's surrounded only by other women, then what DC Comics is suggesting here is that her being gay is not something she was biologically born as, but instead it was pushed upon her by her environment and her peers. So basically, DC Comics just outed themselves as claiming that being gay is not something you're born with, but is instead influenced by the things around you. I won't debate the concept of can someone be born gay or not, but you'd have to be stupid to not at least admit that your environment definitely influences your beliefs and upbringing. And that's what DC Comics is suggesting here, which is a big yikes if we're being honest. For example, if you have someone who's raised in a ruined household that's full of abuse and drugs, they are going to obviously have a bigger possibility of becoming an abuser themselves or a drug addict, as opposed to someone who was born in a cushiony, happy, stable family. Now, I'm sure Wonder Woman has definitely scissored a few Amazons in her time, but what's funny is how these woke writers see the existence of traditional masculinity and the concept of straight hetero relationships to be awful and an attack on their existences. One of these people is Greg Rucka, who's written Wonder Woman in the past with a very obvious LGBT slant. Greg also said that defining her as queer needs to be yes for a number of reasons, but perhaps foremost among them is if no, then she leaves Paradise only because of a potential relationship with Steve, and that diminishes her character. It would hurt the character and take away her heroism. So Wonder Woman, like Sue Storm, is only legitimized and correct in the eyes of these morons as long as they reject any semblance of heteronormative concepts. If Wonder Woman left Themyscira because of Steve Trevor, well, that's awful, because he's a man and we just can't have that. But I guarantee you, if Wonder Woman left her home for, say, Sally Trevor, or basically a female version of Trevor, or any woman in general really, oh well, now it's totally fine and not at all hurts her heroism, because it's a woman she's in love with and not a man. These echo chamber smooth brain truths these people accept prove that they push these things only to be seen as virtuous in the eyes of other weirdos like them. Recently, I even explained how Dan DiDio, who used to run DC but left after the woke virus infested it, that these companies and the writers within them simply adopt whatever ideologies or concepts are politically correct at the time. So I genuinely believe if racism was normalized and was considered politically correct, that places like DC Comics would become a racist machine themselves. Because these companies don't care about their values because they don't have any to begin with. Ethan Van Sciver, who's been very openly against the woke mind virus, even said this about Wonder Woman and more, that all DC is trying to do here is a one-to-one fulfillment of the mythical Lesbos fantasy that won't work despite its presence in mythology. Ethan compares it to making Captain America a Nazi or Hydra agent. Both twists went over with fans about the same. And he's right. It's so obvious that changes like making Captain America secretly a Nazi or Wonder Woman into a raging lesbian are only being done to fulfill quotas. Captain America was only made a Nazi because he's a white man, and white men are the plague in today's society apparently. Even though it turned out the Cap that was a Nazi wasn't exactly him, it doesn't matter. These things are done for shock value and political correctness, nothing more. But I love it when these woke psychos self-own themselves like this, because assuming Wonder Woman is gay simply because of her environment dismantles many of the ideologies and codes these people live by. But just, don't tell them that because their heads might explode. Honestly, all we want are good, solid female characters that don't shit on the male characters around them. Recently, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty came out, and very early in that, you're with the President of the United States of America. She's a woman, clearly, but CD Projekt Red doesn't play her as this superior individual or whatever because she's a woman. She is simply a person trying to survive in a really messed up situation. She isn't depicted as being better than the male characters around her, but instead she represents what people want out of their characters, which is to just be characters first, and not propaganda for weirdos to exploit. It's also why you have media personalities like Lily Singh, for example, who despite having her show get cancelled, just refuses to believe it's because she wasn't entertaining enough. No, it got cancelled because she's a woman of color. After all, nobody likes watching women of color on television, apparently. Of course, by the way, nobody tell Lily Singh about people like Oprah Winfrey or Arsenio Hall, Wendy Williams, Eric Andre, or openly LGBT presenters like Ellen DeGeneres who, while yes she was an awful person, the fact remains she had a popular show for years and was openly gay too. So it's not that people don't want women of color or women or people of color in general hosting things. Because if that's true, why does The Talk and The View still exist, for example? It's just because you're not entertaining. That's why. When everything you do is either wrong or any accusation thrown your way is simply not your fault because of convenient racism cards being pulled, people start to get tired of your victimhood. The state of women in media these days is they are either depicted as victims who must smash the patriarchy, or they are basically men with the emotional range of robots. Then you have very controversial things like a certain gaming league that got called out recently too. This story, I'm going to have to tread carefully because it covers the good old gender identity ideology can of worms. But essentially, the League Championship Series, or LCS, posted a video showing how the gaming league is uplifting female voices in modern gaming. But the video has drawn a ton of ire because only one of the women in the video is an actual biological female, the rest are transgender.
LCS Game Changers is a really important event to me, and it's very close to my heart. I've been in every iteration of the program since 2021, and the 2021 program was actually my first ever comp experience, and so that was really, really exciting and really sparked my drive for the game in a really big way.
LCS Game Changers to me means, I think it's just an opportunity. I think it's a really good opportunity. Something especially that I've struggled with is getting the chance to prove myself, actually getting the opportunity to go to tryouts, to play in combines is something I've been denied several times, especially even in times where I really should have been given the opportunity. And so it's really just a wonderful opportunity to show myself off and show off what I have, and I'm sure a lot of the other players feel the same way.
The argument here is that male players who identify as female are stealing spaces from biological women. And this advert was kind of a cell phone in a way too, since it shows the disparity between biological women and trans ones. If the majority of your women in your sport aren't born as women, is that a problem or no? Well, the tweet has a ton of hidden replies with all ranges of opinions within them, and it's not surprising. But I do think these leagues need to ensure more biological women are represented. Otherwise, this can of worms will continue to get more diluted as time and meanings continue to grow and evolve, and God knows what else comes in the future. But as you can see, from entertainment to video games and more, the female representation is getting more skewed as time goes on. Today's media is absolutely ruining women, as they continue to be presented in a way that pushes the idea that the less womanly they are, the better it is. Female representation is such a touchy subject in today's world. But even if some might watch this video or others I've done about women in media in the past, I genuinely don't know how you'd think I have it out for women or something. We need to protect these spaces and the integrity of female representation. We need to normalize showing your emotions and wanting a family to be a good thing, instead of it being seen as a death sentence by others. Until the integrity of our media starts to turn towards the better, I will keep pushing and reporting on these sorts of things. We all deserve better, and I'm tired of woke weirdos desexualizing, homogenizing, and removing all the unique qualities of women in order to appease these weirdos who don't buy their products anyway. Stop ruining women. It's not fair, and it's all tone deaf. Don't care who that offends, I'll shout it from the rooftops. Anyway, thank you for watching, subscribe and like the video, and again, I have a G Fuel code if you'd like 20% off, use code ENDYMION. Thanks to my patrons, and have a great day everyone, I'll see you in the next one.